Okay, good evening and welcome to the first JCI USA webinar for 2017. I hope that tonight's webinar will provide some helpful tips and tools for you as you plan a successful 2017 and beyond for your chapters. Before we get started, I just wanted to make sure that you all know that you can type any questions that you have in the chat box at the bottom of the screen, and we'll be answering those throughout the webinar and taking any final questions at the end. My name is Noelle Knockreiner, and I am honored to serve as your 2017 National Membership Director. As Membership Director, I am charged with overseeing the 13,500 members of our organization and ensuring that chapters feel prepared to motivate and empower their members. I am from Indiana and the Indianapolis JCI chapter, and my goal for 2017 is to engage with members to learn why they're here and what resources they need to be successful. So tonight's objectives for our webinar, we're going to talk about the Civic Leadership Certification, which is a tool that we have at our disposal as chapters. We're going to talk about chapter plans of action, so doing some planning for the year. We're going to talk about some membership planning, and then we're going to talk about some long-range strategic planning. So to get started, I'll speak briefly about the Civic Leadership Certification, or CLC. This, like I said, is a resource provided by JCI USA that helps chapters run more efficiently. So I want to start off by taking a quick poll of our audience and finding out where you are with your chapter. So if you want to go ahead and read these answers on the screen and let us know by typing into the chat box where you are. You can either type A, your chapter could run a marathon in 100 degrees while wearing jorts, you're in perfect health. B, your chapter does the Whole30 diet a couple times a year, but you could make some healthier choices. Or C, your chapter has been on week 1 of Couch to 5K for the past few years. So go ahead and take a minute or two and just type into the box where your chapter is. Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of B's. That's good. That's right, Jessica, nobody is perfect. That's great. So a lot of B's. Good to see that. All right. So the CLC program, if you are not familiar with it, is basically a checklist that helps keep your chapter on track for the year. And it also is a way for you to get the most out of the tools and resources and programs that we provide with JCI USA. So it's a guide for, like I said, running a healthy, thriving chapters, and it chapters who complete 100% of the activities in the CLC are recognized at our year-end convention every year in the spring. So to complete your CLC, we have 2 ways that you can complete it now. We have our traditional form, which we have improved for 2017, and I'm going to show you what that looks like in just a second. And then we also have an online submission form through our database, which is pretty exciting as well. So this is what the Civic Leadership Certification form looks like now as of today. If anyone is familiar with CLC and has used this in the past, it used to be a Word document that you downloaded and then checked off. And so we've updated it by making it, first and foremost, an editable PDF so that you can just enter your answers in where those highlighted boxes are. And then on the check boxes, you can actually just check those off one by one. And another thing we did was we reorganized the submissions so that they're by their due date. Before, they were kind of in a different order and it was a little hard to follow when things were due. So now everything is just viewable by its due date or by its submission date. And if you are a local president, you can find this in your chapter in a box. This chapter in a box email was sent to all local presidents today. And if you're not a local president, it also actually was sent out in the JCI USA member newsletter yesterday. So be sure to check your inbox for that member newsletter. And the chapter in a box can be found there. It is a Dropbox file that you can access, and then you would have a list of a large number of documents that can help you in your chapter planning, everything from this CLC form to information about how we get member benefits and things like that, some other flyers and handouts. The PMG is now an editable PDF file as well that kind of has the same layout. So a lot of updates on a lot of our information and handouts, and those are all available in that chapter in a box. So the second way that you can complete your CLC is on the database. So if you go to www.jcmember.com and log in, you will see that this would be your member profile. And if you are at the access level that you can access the stats and the chapter stats, you will see on the right side of your screen right over here where it lists your CLC and the percentage that you have done. And so if you click on your 2017 Leadership Certification, it'll bring up a screen that looks somewhat like this. We're actually working on reorganizing it right now so that it will match the handout that I just showed you, so that it's in that same order by deadline as well. So you'll be able to see all of the things that you need to do. You can check yes or no on those. Anytime that it says it needs something submitted, you can choose the file and upload it right there. And then those items will all be approved by our CLC program manager. So the submission deadlines for all of the CLC items, and you will find all of these on that form like I talked about. So there are 5 different submission deadlines. The first one is going to be at the end of next month, February 28th, and it will contain some of the items it contains is updating the database to make sure that your new chapter president is listed, etc., your officer training, holding an officer training. And then the second deadline is April 30th, and that's things like renewing your insurance or updating it, filing your 990 and your tax information, etc. Our third deadline is July 31st, and that would be holding a government meeting, meeting with some mayors or government officials, holding a new member orientation. There's another deadline on October 31st, and that is actually just a quarterly chapter plan review to make sure that you're on track. And then our final year-end submission will be February 28th of 2018. And that will have kind of the final report of how your chapter ended and where things stand so that your next year leaders have a great opportunity to pick up the momentum that you can started in 2017 and continue to carry that forward. So if you have more questions specifically about the CLC program, the program manager is Tessa McGuire, and she can be reached at clc@jciusa.org. And I believe that Tessa is planning on scheduling a webinar to help familiarize people even more with the CLC program. So now we're going to talk about your annual plan of action, which is one of the first items that you are requested to complete for the CLC. And your plan of action is really a business plan for your chapter. So it needs to contain a lot of different elements that would go into it. It needs to have your goals, which should be SMART goals. It needs to have a SWOT analysis, contact information for your officers, your annual calendar, and then also your budget. So SMART goals, let's talk about what those are for a second. SMART goals, SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. So we want to make sure that any goal you are setting for the year is going to be a SMART goal. So it's something that is very specific, it's very measurable, it's achievable, and it's realistic and timely. So instead of saying, we're going to recruit members, well, you can say, we're going to recruit 10 new members by the end of the third quarter, and let's see. I think that pretty much covers that. That would be specific and measurable and realistic, if that's realistic for your chapter. Maybe it's realistic for your chapter to recruit 3 new members by the third quarter, etc. The next thing that you want your plan of action to contain is a SWOT analysis. And SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And when you think about a SWOT analysis, what I always think about is your strengths and your weaknesses are internal items, that those are things within your chapter. So maybe a strength for your chapter is that you have a really great social media presence and a lot of people follow you and you have great engagement on social media. Maybe a weakness is that you don't have a lot of public relations, or you don't get any information in your local newspaper or on local media sites, what have you. So those would be kind of, well, that would kind of be an external. Sorry, that was not a great example. An internal weakness would be maybe that you only have a few really active members who continue to put on all your projects. That would be a weakness because it's internal. An opportunity would be if you have a great relationship with your mayor and you can go and talk to your mayor any time of the day and you know that he's excited to talk to the JCs. A threat could be, like I said, that PR or other young professional organizations in your community that might be competing against you for members, things like that. So you always want to lay out what your strengths and weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats are so that you have a very clear picture of your year. You also want to ensure that all your officer contacts are in your plan of action. That's just in case, one of your members or someone from your state board needs to get a hold of you and talk to you and, they can't get a hold of you, or maybe they need to talk to the membership director specifically. I would definitely recommend that you find a place to put your officer contacts in there, and just for your sake too. I mean, maybe you don't have Sally's phone number saved in your phone and you need to call her to talk about a project. You know that you can then go to your plan of action and look it up there. It should also have your calendar for the year, so make sure that you are planning all of your dates well ahead of time, whether it's your meetings or your projects or your membership nights, M-nights, or meetups, whatever you're having every single month. Make sure that you have all those events on your calendar at the beginning of the year. And also, I want you to remember that this plan of action is a working document, so you can change it throughout the year. You can update it throughout the year. Nothing is set in stone. So if you add more events throughout the year, that's fine. Just make sure that you add them to your plan of action, and that then you also add them to your budget, because that is another important part of your plan of action. You need to make sure that you are operating your chapter effectively and that you are being as thriftful as possible. And so you want to make sure that that plan of action contains a budget that is a balanced budget, of course. And so we do have a chapter plan of action in our toolkit, in our chapter in a box that you can use. And this is a pretty basic document. I would use it to get some great ideas of how you can write the plan of action. You, of course, can write it right in there, but you can also write it in your own Word document and kind of follow along with these different areas. You also want to make sure when you are working in that plan of action that you are incorporating things like a community survey. So you're going out and you're talking to your community and they're finding out what kind of things they need from your chapter and how your chapter can help the community. You also want to make sure you have the results from your membership survey so that you are talking to your members and asking them, hey, what do you want out of this organization? Why are you a member? What can we do for you? So things like that. You also want to make sure, and it's not on this sheet that I'm showing you here on this screenshot that I did, but it's also going to ask you about some of your goals in each of our 4 areas of opportunity that we offer through the JCs. So whether that's individual development, business development, international development, and community development. So making sure you're looking at those 4 areas so that you have a well-rounded chapter. So that said, I would like to know, what is one goal for your chapter in 2017? What is one thing that you want to accomplish for your chapter? Go ahead and type that in your comment section. Oh, there's way more down here. Let's see. Ooh, Thomas says you have no members between the ages of 12 and 23. I'm hoping you meant 18, since that's the minimum age for our organization. So that would definitely be something that you would want to work on for the year, I would hope. Let's see, boost membership and participation, recruit and activate 10 members. That's a great one, Margot. Thank you. Have more trainings instead of socials. That's a great idea, Brittany. Increase the number of active members. Also great. Let's see, CJ says to donate 10% of all revenue through community grants and college scholarships to the community by the end of 2017. That's awesome, CJ, and that's very specific. That's great. So these are great. So a more active young member, that's great also. Very good. I love hearing those goals for your chapters. I can't wait to check back with you later and see how you did. So now I feel like, as the membership director, I would be remiss if I held a planning webinar and didn't talk about membership planning. So we're going to take a few minutes to talk about membership and how you can plan to have a great membership year. So your membership plan should really contain 2 parts. It should talk about recruitment, which I saw a lot of you in your goals say that you wanted to recruit members. But it should also talk about retention, so how you're going to hang on to the members you already have. So when you're recruiting members, you really want to focus on a few things. For one thing, you want to have a prospect list. And this is a list of everyone you know or don't know in your community between the age of 18 and 40 who would be a great member of your organization. So if you have a chamber that has, a lot of small business owners who are members, maybe, attend a chamber event and talk to some of them. Maybe if your community does a 40 under 40, looking at who those people are on that list. And just creating a list, a prospect list. I would recommend doing it in Dropbox or Google Drive or something where you can share the document and several people can have access to it and they can review it, they can add to it. Maybe they'll say, oh, I know Becky Johnson. She and I are on this board together. I would love to meet her for coffee and talk to her about how she would be a great addition to our organization. Because you never know who knows someone, who's friends of someone that you can tap into. So making sure that you have an ongoing prospect list of people who you really want to recruit and to see become members of your organization, whether you currently know those people or not. And then you also need to know, when you're recruiting, who your chapter influencers are. And I say that everyone in your chapter probably falls into one of three categories. They either are a greeter, a promoter, or a closer. And each of those people, I'll explain those a little bit more. A greeter is someone who has never met a stranger in their life. They can sit down on an airplane next to someone, and in 2.5 hours when they land, they have met their new best friend. They just know everyone, they love everyone. They can see those new members come into the door, or those prospective members come into the door at a social event or at a meeting, and just embrace them and get to know them. And then you have your promoters. These are the people who are very passionate about being a part of this organization and are able to convey that passion to prospective members. And it's not just saying to them, oh, well, we do this and this and this and this and this, because it's great to tell them all the wonderful things you do, but that can also overwhelm new people too if they're not familiar with the organization. So what those promoters need to be really good at is pulling out of people what they're passionate about and what they really like to do, what makes them tick, and then relating that to a project that your chapter is doing, or to an event. Or if maybe they're passionate about something that you're not engaged with, saying, you know, we would love to get you on this board or a part of this organization so that we can start doing things like that. That would be great. And then the last person that you would have in your chapter is the closer. And this is the person who can seal the deal, or as I like to say, get the money. And they will be the people who, you know, again, they're able to ask for the check. They're able to tell what the membership benefits are, what people are going to get out of it, you know, and follow up with those people and ensure that they're getting activated. You also, when it comes to recruitment, want to make sure that you have updated marketing collateral, and just making sure that that is always fresh and on, you know, making sure it's on fleek. I don't know if the kids still say that, or if it applies to marketing material, but just making sure that your marketing material looks great and that you are, you know, ensuring that it's attractive and that it's attracting the kind of member that you want. So the second part of your membership plan is membership retention. And so this is engaging with your current members and activating them so that they continue to be members throughout the year. And one way that you can do this is really using our database to your advantage to look at your membership. And I know this is a little difficult to see because it's kind of a small screenshot, but what you really want to do is you want to take your chapter and look at a snapshot for the year in the database. So what you would do is at the top of the screen in the middle, you would see in the first quarter how many members you have due, in the second quarter, third and fourth, etc. So that's going to give you a good breakdown of, you know, when you have the most members due, when you have fewer members due, and then maybe do some research around that. You know, for example, if this chapter has a lot of members due in the third quarter, they probably have a big summer activity that recruits a lot of members. So they know that they're going to have a lot of members continue to come in that quarter, and that maybe they can focus some of their efforts a little bit in a different quarter. The next thing that you want to do after you've kind of looked at the snapshot and looked at the year to know, you know, when you maybe need to do an incentive, or when you can, you know, kind of just work on that retention and making sure that you're engaging with those members. Then you want to do a quarter by quarter review. So you would actually click on one of those quarters. So example, you would click on, say this is the first quarter, you just click right on that number, it's clickable, and it would pull up that quarter for you. So you want to make sure you go through that list and look at everyone on the list and see, you know, is there someone aging out first and foremost? Because we know if they're aging out that, you know, they can no longer be a member. The second thing you probably want to look for are your officers, your board of directors, etc. Because those people since they are obviously very engaged in the chapter, are definitely probably going to renew their membership. And then the third group of people you want to look at are those that maybe have not been as engaged. They maybe joined and you saw them for 2 or 3 months and then they just kind of stopped coming to things. Those are the ones you really want to make sure that you're reaching out to and you're reconnecting with, and you're asking questions like, hey, I noticed you haven't been around in a couple months. What's going on? You know, maybe they've had some personal things happen that they're not able to be engaged, but they're, you know, in a position that they want to come back. Just show that you really care about them, that you really want to know what's going on, and that you want to keep them engaged. You know, some of those people, they may just end up leaving because that's how that happens, but some of them, maybe they're just looking for someone to reach out to them and reconnect with them so that they know that this is a meaningful organization that they want to be a part of. So now that we've talked about planning for the year through your membership plan and your plan of action and how to use the CLC, we're going to talk about strategic planning. And I know, because it's just for 2017 was the title of the webinar, but you always want to be making sure that you are looking forward towards the future, because as Abraham Lincoln said, the best way to predict your future is to create it. So you always want to be sure that you are looking forward and that you are looking to leave this organization better than you found it. A little bit of stewardship for the organization. So if you want to do a strategic plan, here's just kind of some basic information and things that can be included in that strategic plan. You can do another SWOT analysis like you did for the plan of action, or you can do what's called a SOAR analysis. And I actually just learned about a SOAR analysis a couple months ago, and it's actually really cool. So it looks at your strengths, your opportunities, your aspirations, and your results. So it's very forward thinking. So you can really imagine your chapter in 2 years or in 5 years. And you can say, okay, in 5 years, what will be the strengths of this organization? What will be the opportunities? What are our aspirations? What do we want it to be in 5 years? Where do we want things to be? And then the results, like how are we going to get to those aspirations? What do we need to do in order to meet those goals? Again, you will want to have SMART goals, so make sure that they're very realistic and attainable and measurable, even when they're long-range planning. So maybe, you know, my home chapter, they had a goal a few years ago that they wanted to have, 100 members by a certain period. And that then they wanted to get to the point that they had to extend new chapters in different parts of our city so that they could continue to build the organization and put even more impact in very specific communities and areas of the city. So, you know, making sure you have some really long-range goals. You also want to make sure that that plan focuses on your leadership pipeline. You know, if you're not already identifying your future leaders for 2018, 2020, you know, you need to be looking at some of those younger people coming up and really spending some time educating them on the mission of the organization and our vision and what our value system is, so that they fully understand the breadth of the JCs and everything that we do and that we stand for, so that when they take over as a local officer or as local president, they feel prepared to do a really great job. And, you know, maybe that is, again, going back to that prospect list and saying, okay, you know, here's a person that they're a very young person and they could really take this organization far, and I could see them leading this chapter, you know, kind of all ties together. And then, of course, setting some deadlines. If you don't set deadlines on your goals, and a dream without a deadline is just a wish, as people say. So making sure that you have deadlines on things and you have actionable steps to get you to where you want to be. And then always review, review, review. Make sure that you are treating the strategic plan also as a working document. So many times you see, and even in business, you see people create a strategic plan and then they put it up on a shelf and they don't touch it again for 6 months or a year, and then they pick it up a year later and they haven't accomplished anything in their strategic plan. So make sure that you're constantly reviewing that and trying to figure out how you can make it better and what you can do to go and move your organization forward. Okay, so at this point, that is everything that I had for this evening. I did want to just remind you that if you are creating marketing materials, or if you want to create some of those items that can help move the chapter forward, that we do have a marketing person on our national staff. Her name is Katie, and you can email her at info@jciusa. Are there any questions about anything that I covered this evening? Oops. Any questions? All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for joining this webinar. I hope that you got some good information out of it. We are going to be having a number of webinars throughout the year. And actually, let me see if I can pull those up. No, I don't have the whole list, sorry. So we'll be having webinars throughout the year. There will always be the 4th Thursday of the month. You can check out the JCI USA Facebook page for information on those webinars. All the links will also be up on the website very soon if they are not already, and you can go ahead and register for those at any time. So thank you so much for joining us this evening, and I hope that you have a wonderful night.